U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has urged Congress to pass a long-delayed cryptocurrency regulation bill this spring as lawmakers seek to establish clever rules for the fast-growing digital asset industry. Speaking amid renewed debates on Capitol Hill, Bessent said the proposed Clarity Act would provide regulatory certainty for market participants and help position the United States as a leader in financial innovation. His remarks come as crypto markets face renewed volatility and policymakers remain divided over how to balance investor protection with industry growth. Ola Atose, founder and CEO of KoinKoi, joins me for this. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. I think all eyes are on this particular legislation, and Bessent is saying everything will be sorted this spring. Do you think that's going to actually work?
Well, he's insisting that it's going to work, and I think from the perspective of the Americans, they would like to see this act passed so the president can sign it before the midterm elections. I think it's mixed feelings from the cryptocurrency digital assets sector in the United States. I would say they wish to negotiate further about the contents of the act and how it's going to affect their individual business models. So it's mixed feelings, but I think the fact that there's more oversight in the space overall is a good thing from a regulatory. All
right, we'll come to the mixed feelings because I know there are about 3 sticking points that we actually need to address on the show today. Well, I'm also joined by Solomon Gift Amunde, financial market analyst. Thank you, Solomon, for joining me today. So we're talking about the Clarity Act. I mean, if passed, what does this portend for the ecosystem generally?
Well, there are different areas you can look at it from. First, protection of consumers, because the bill also highlights that. And also, there will be a clearly defined path to registration of exchanges, tokens, and other platforms that want to offer services in the blockchain and crypto space. And also, there will be a clear, defined framework for cryptocurrencies if they want to tax them or if they don't want to tax them. They can be able to categorize different projects as commodities or securities. So these are like some of the benefits of this bill.
All right. I mean, we saw sell-off recently. Do you think it's connected in any way, either remotely or directly to, the delay in passing this particular act or bill? Yeah.
Well, not entirely. There are different factors which move the market, of course, and we could say, well, some would say that the market was slightly overheated at that top level of 126K for Bitcoin. But there are a number of different factors, geopolitical factors, market factors generally driving what's going on in the cryptocurrency markets. Of course, where we are now, roughly at 68K, I think presents an opportunity for buyers to consider piling in, depending on, your interest, in the space. But overall, there's a lot more maturity in this space. There are a number of different ETFs now, and the market has come a long way compared to where we were in say 5 years ago in 2021. So the market's come a long way. It's still maturing. And what we're seeing now, you would call it volatility. I would say it's market participation. And we're seeing more market participation in this sector. And I think overall that's a good thing.
Well, looking at the Clarity Act, we've seen that, in some quarters there are dissenting voices and all of that. But let's come to you. For you, what do you think? Do you have reservations? Are there clauses, segments, or sections that you're not comfortable with?
Personally, not entirely. I mean, our business is a centralized exchange, so everything that we do is for the safety of the consumer. The focus we have is on protecting the sector, the ecosystem, making sure that things like the travel rule, understanding sources of funds, where funds have come from, where they're going to, things like that are pertinent to our business. So there are a lot of positives within the bill, I would say. But with regards to identifying who we can work with, there are decentralized platforms that we have a lot of business with. We would like to continue that business. We just would like some clarity from the bill to see, so what can we do? What will we be able to do once this bill passes? And that's the view, I guess, largely from the States. The focus here in Nigeria, however, is a bit different.
All right. Well, Solomon, let me get your thoughts on that before we move on to, before we move on this particular conversation.
Well, I think the bill is good. It's good. The only challenge where most crypto exchanges have an issue is talking about yields for stablecoin, and also how they categorize most of those yields, and talking about regulatory jurisdictions. that's where most exchanges are not so okay with it. I think the founder of Coinbase also shared his opinion relating to that. But aside that, I feel the crypto space has and the blockchain space has gotten to a level where there needs to be like a clearly defined framework. The market is 16 years old, and we are sitting at over $2 trillion FDV. So it only makes sense that at this point, at least we should have some form of framework which would help some investors, big money investors and institutional investors, to have confidence in the market, and overall it will help the growth of the market long term. So I think it's a good one.
All right. Well, at least two or let's say three sticking points stand out. One of them is about the stablecoin yields, which you have mentioned. But apart from that, there is also the fear that developers, about developers who don't hold customers' funds or act as middlemen. There is that fear that they could be regulated like banks or exchanges. And the third is the ethics provision, where we are saying that we're probably going to have to limit people like the president from profiting from the value chain. I mean, looking at these three sticking points, what are your thoughts on them? You started with the stablecoin yield, but I would like you to dive deeper into them.
All right, so I would say government love to control things, most times because it gives them a level of understanding and it helps them to manage risk. So the whole idea of cryptocurrencies was to give power back to the people, decentralization, give power back to the people. This is why most people are struggling with the idea of government coming in, being able to control. It defeats the whole purpose, the whole thing that made most persons jump on the train of cryptocurrencies. So eventually it might be difficult, but I feel we would have to find a common ground. There'll be a common ground eventually, because government will need to know what's really going on, and the system, the ecosystem needs the endorsement of government. Any way we look at it, we actually need the endorsement of government. There are very regulated frameworks and businesses that can't jump on cryptocurrencies, that can't be able to interface with the ecosystem if those regulations are not in place. These are like some of the hurdles and some things that we need to consider. So I feel it's going to be difficult. I mean, that's why we've been unable to come up with a framework for the past 5 years. It's very difficult because of how delicate the whole ecosystem is and the interests of the stakeholders too. But eventually, we'll be able to harmonize everything. I don't know for certain how it's going to work right now, but what I do know is we'll find a way around it eventually.
All right, thank you. I'd like to get your thoughts, Ola Atose, on these sticking points. And if you have other sticking points that I didn't highlight, maybe you also speak to those.
I mean, I think, he's made a very good point on the fact that, the whole reason why crypto came into existence was
decentralization.
Yes, of course, and was to move us away from banking ledgers. Where it ultimately...
But government needs to know what's happening. You believe that?
Yes, I have always...
And then if there is a need for investigation, I mean, an open space makes it easier to investigate.
Yes. I think the point, as your guest mentioned earlier, was with cryptocurrency, you actually get to own what you own, whereas a banking ledger puts you at the behest of the bank. So whether you're an exchange or a DeFi or any form of decentralized or centralized digital asset company, you don't necessarily want to be a bank. We're moving on from that. We've evolved, so to speak. But that said, I'm a strong believer in, regulation. And I think for the safety of all of us, there is a need for, guidelines and a framework by which things are done. And I think there is a middle ground. I think if we can all come together, and look at what those frameworks should be, it can only make the sector safer. And I think that should be the focus, participants, operators, and of course the government should seek to have.
Well, what do you make about the suggestion that government officials shouldn't participate in things like this? They shouldn't, benefit value from it.
If we're talking specifically about the point you made earlier about President Trump benefiting from, I think President Trump himself said that he's not involved. It's his kids who are doing it. So whether if the kids benefit, that means he benefits, I honestly don't know. But the reality is that digital assets are for everyone. And I think they present everyone, whether you're in government, whether you're a private, citizen, an opportunity, either for yields or for speculation or for, doing things which, the current traditional finance system doesn't allow us to do. But that said, if the government is to set parameters of what is doable and what isn't, they should also consider setting parameters for themselves. So.
Interesting. I'll come to you, Solomon, and just before I come to you, I would like you to tell us what you look forward to, some of the things you think should be sorted and all that. But before then, let me come to you, Ola Atose. In Nigeria, you're also a player here in Nigeria, and we hear that, there are some regulations or something in that regard coming up. Talk to us about that.
Well, one of the things I'd say is, given where we are now in Nigeria, I'm personally very excited. The government is working behind the scenes. The central bank, the SEC, NRS, NFIU, ONSA, they're all working quite hard behind the scenes. Even in the House of Reps, on the Honorable Bamshile, we have the ad hoc committee on cryptocurrency and POS systems. And there's a lot of synergy between different arms of the government to see, digital assets and this sector be a success. Over the last year, of course, $92.1 billion, was traded in Nigeria alone. That's quite a lot, and there is need for not just, obviously, one entity within government, but all the necessary agencies within government to come together and harmonize and find a solution, which they are doing under the Renewed Hope agenda set by the president. So I'm pleased to announce that someone who has, sight behind the scenes, that the government's doing a lot of work. It's time for us to be excited. The government's building upon, what SEC did a lot of work on, ISA 2025. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. The government's building upon that. We now have, an authority called the Virtual Assets Regulatory Authority, which has harmonized all the regulatory bodies. And I think, now Nigerians will finally get an opportunity to see not just the government at work, but to see this actual sector have the necessary framework so everyone can participate safely. So I'm excited about that.
Well, that's quite interesting. Solomon, do you mind saying a thing or two about this before you then tell us your parting short?
What I'm looking forward to is, personally, I think the best way to go about regulation and framework is it should be released in budgets. The framework should be released in budgets. So why am I saying this and how do I mean? Crypto and blockchain is so broad that it cuts across almost every industry you can think of. Agriculture, finance, startups and fundraising, tech, real estate, name it, supply chain logistics. It cuts across almost every industry you can think of. Now, if we want to get a definite framework before we roll out the framework for regulation, it's going to take so much time and it's going to be very, very difficult, and we might still not get it right. So it will be best to roll it out in batches, maybe a framework for stablecoins, a framework for tokenization. Now we're looking at tokenizing stocks, a framework for tokenization, a framework for tokenizing real estate. There's a framework for startup fundraising for those that want to raise funds via cryptocurrencies to build their Web3 project or a Web2 project. You get stuff like that. I feel releasing those framework in badges would make more sense rather than just waiting to have everything sorted out before we push it out. So personally, that's what I'm looking forward to, because it will be nearly impossible for us to get it right with the very first framework that will be released.
Right, thank you so much. And then your parting short on the Clarity Act.
I think they should be fast about it. Time is running very fast. If they can, they should just finalize it based on investors' protection, customers' protection, and also stable coins, how they are going to regulate stable coins. If they can get that sorted, then maybe they leave the rest for later on in the future, maybe 6 months down, before they can be able to review and push the final framework. I think that would make much sense, because right now most investors, they're just sitting on the fence. They can't commit too much money into the market because they want to know the stand of the government. And we know how long these things take. We're in the month of February 2026. 1 year down the line, we might still not have gotten this clarity bill approved. So it just makes sense for them to act fast. It will benefit the entire market. So acting fast is what I would say. Thank you.
Right, thank you so much. And just before I let you go, I just want to get your thoughts in 30 seconds on the yields. What's your take on it? Let's go on that in less than 30 seconds.
Well, I think there's a reason.
That's stablecoin yield.
Yeah, stablecoin yield. I think there's a reason why people are looking into having stablecoin yields, not just within the States, but across the world, right? You know, they want to move funds from their local currencies into, you know, USD-based stablecoins and get some yield. It's, you know, it's a no-brainer. It's a way to save money, and it's a way to, if you want to say it, make money. So I'm for it. I think it's, you know, it's a service we provide on our platform, and we think it's, you know, it's a pertinent part of, you know, what this is all about. So I'm certainly for it. I don't think it, you know, it makes any difference to a number of the other activities we provide.
Well, that's quite interesting. Banks are the ones that are against it anyway. All right, thank you so much for coming on the show. Ola Atose, founder and CEO of KoinKoi. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.